This is a really quick crash course on the pros and cons of an SMMA or a software agency. So for context, I've been running a development company over the last 3 years, and I've got plenty of friends who've been involved in the SMMA game, and I know that's been a big online niche for a lot of people who want to start online businesses. Now, development is a completely different type of business. You work on product side instead of marketing side. They're very, very different, and I want to go through some of the pros and cons. I'll start on the software development side. One of the biggest pros and cons is the fact that your deal size is generally larger. So development retainers are generally larger than the deals that you'd have for SMMA. So you can quickly, jump up in revenue, but that's also a con because it means that you might have a very limited number of clients, and losing one can cut your revenue in half or into a third very, very quickly if you lose a big client. Now, in the SMMA game, obviously you can also reach larger clients as well, but generally, most of the time, the ticket size is going to be less than a development agency. So it's a double-edged sword. It can be really good, but it can also be a detriment of being in the development niche. One of the cons of the development game is how hard it also is to express your business change in numbers. What I mean by that is if you run a marketing campaign and you run a bunch of ads, you can see how much revenue your ads drove. And so it's very easy to see the results you produce. Whereas in development, it's hard to track that unless you know exactly what metrics you're looking for. And that is one of the harder parts about being in the development niche as well. One of the pros, though, of being in the development niche, which I think is one of the greatest advantages actually, is the fact that you are one of fewer people that can do what you do. So what I mean by saying that is generally, if you're going to go into SMMA, it is easier to learn those skills and to get started. Whereas in development, learning coding skills and learning to develop and build things is a skill that takes longer to acquire. I started this development agency, some 4 years after I started coding and playing around with that. And so you don't need to be the most skilled engineer in the world, but you do need to have some technical knowledge, and that's something that not everybody has. And so in that way, you have less competition. It's harder to replicate you and just copy what you did, because you need a little bit more of a skill set to start with. You need to understand technical concepts and things like that, and that is an advantage for you if you have that skill. Now, moving on to the SMMA side, so one of the big pros and cons of the SMMA side of things is the fact that it's lower ticket. Now, the con is maybe it takes you longer to kind of build those projects up and make it to 5 figures in revenue consistently. But one of the nicer things is also, because of the lower ticket, you might be able to secure a few smaller clients, and you can learn from data quickly. And so you learn on your fulfillment faster because you might get your first 5 or 10 clients faster than in a development company. Another pro in the SMMA game, I think, is the fact that generally the retainers are quite sticky if you are good at what you do. So you have to be really good at what you do, but the retainers are usually more sticky and longer term, whereas in the development niche, you might have a project building retainer and then some kind of maintenance thing, but the maintenance is usually a lot less. Still though, SMMA is a kind of service that you can sell almost at any time because businesses are generally always looking to expand, and development, you need to pinpoint when exactly you are needed. Now, some of the major disadvantages of SMMA is also the fact that it's very easily replicatable, and everybody's just flooding that market right now. It's extremely easy generally to replicate unless you have some kind of marketing expertise that other people don't have. So if you've been running Facebook ads for a long time, you did that for a media agency, now you spin off your own thing, that's one thing. But if you're starting from zero, your competitive advantage is close to none. At the end of the day, I think if you have the ability to create a development company, I think that makes more sense because you are more unique, because you're using skills that not necessarily everybody has. And so you are competing against a slightly smaller pool of people, but the development agency game is also very, very crowded. There's a lot of companies out there, a lot of existing companies. The reality is both of these companies, both of these business models are going to need a lot of kind of trial and error to make them work. You're going to take years. The truth is, whichever one you pick, you should just get started and move forward with it. Stick to one, don't do both. I think that's the reality. But I guess some people have doubts about business models and things, and so I thought I'd make this video to give my thoughts. In transparency, I have not built any SMMA, and so I don't have firsthand experience in that market, but the general things, the general principles still apply. Anyway, I record on a daily basis, so comment if you have any questions, and I will try and make videos on those.